Welcome to another episode of Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell, and I'm so excited to have Ann back again to get this conversation into a deeper dive. Thank you for being here, Ann.
Thank you for having me.
So today what we're looking at in Healing Through Spirituality is purpose, awakening, and living in alignment. What does that mean? But what we're going to really try to do is complete the circle today in the conversation so that you can have a way to really encapsulate what does it mean to heal through spirituality. In this episode, we're going to be adding anything new that comes into your life and about integrating who you are and where you want to be. In episode 1, we explored the foundation, so the spirituality as wiring and not a woo-woo thing, remembering that healing begins when we come from home to the heart and reconnect with our innate design. And then in episode 2, we moved into the quantum body, how frequency, trauma, coherence, and unseen support shape healing. We explored how energy creates reality and how healing accelerates when we work with the body rather than pushing through things. Today, what we're going to do is bring that all together, living awake in our everyday life. This is where we're going to bring purpose as a stabilizer rather than stress, and healing becomes less about striving and more about remembering who we really are. So with that, we have the opportunity now to bring forward our tea. So for those people first time to the podcast, we always do this for the opening of a sequence that brings us into a healing session. So while you listen, you're being healed at the same time or have the potential for that since it's your journey. And what did you put into your mug today?
Well, I have water again because it's past tea time already for me. I'm in the afternoon, but I added a dash of lemon juice.
Mhm.
And so I always bless the water, like we saw last episode. So each morning, what I do, I have a glass carafe, which I have also some crystals in. At the moment, it's the shungite stone, which is very healing and purifying, protecting the electromagnetic field. And then, as a ritual, when I open the day, I will bless my water. Blessing can be for any state of being you want to achieve, or I bless my water today for activating the awakening and enlightenment flowing in and out as we sip our water today. And this can be transformed also through the speech then, because we just light codes transforming. So that's what I'm sipping on today. And lemon juice as a bit of an extra vitamin C boost, as we still in a very gray, cold Belgium. So that's the extra boost for me.
And the lemon juice with Chinese medicine is great
Mm,
to bring in the afternoon
mm.
from the perspective of the water element taking over. And I know a lot of people will put lemon juice first thing in the morning,
Yeah, yeah,
but really it's very powerful to bring it in the afternoon. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I love what you're doing with the water. So as people are listening and thinking about they just poured some water out of their tap or they bought a water bottle and we don't know where that water's been, but how transformative you're able to take that water and it becomes such a living part of who you are. I just love, even as you describe it and the way you express about it, it's just so beautiful. So.
Yeah, and or you can also just stick a label on your water carafe, a sticky label, and just as much as drawing the heart, a heart shape on your water already, drawing the heart, the frequency of love will automatically already boost your water with that frequency of love, which ultimately is already our higher awareness taking over.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you've just been sipping on plain water, now think about what you can do with it. And that goes back to Dr. Emoto's work, where he was
Yeah.
able to photograph what happens to water when we put different intentions in it. So it is an amazing opportunity to bring vitality to you in such a simple way. So, Anne, thank you for that part. So now let's see, I've got some tea in mine, and I was thinking about spring. And I know it's just around the corner, although we're in a lot of snow at the moment. But I've got 1713 spring tea in Louisburg. So I'm on Cape Breton Island. The Cape Breton Tea Company tries to bring flavors forward that come from the island. And in Louisburg, we have a fortress there. And that fortress would have had fields around it. And so what I tried to pull in with this blend is some of those flavors. So I'm going to highlight the spiritual heart of the tea today, which is lavender and chamomile. And it is a black tea. So black tea also has this opportunity for renewal, softness, and joyful awakening. But when we bring in these, highlighting these two pieces, lavender is a harmonizer for the nervous system. And spiritually, it brings clarity through calm. People don't think about that with a black tea because they're thinking about the caffeine. But the caffeine in the black tea, if you don't add milk, calms the nervous system rather than gives a jolt to the adrenals. So this is an opportunity with that lavender to keep that calmness just flowing through. And it helps us release old mental loops, emotional residue that no longer belongs to us and who we want to become. And it invites us to have more spaciousness, the kind that allows us to have insights and then to land gently when we're trying new things. And chamomile carries the frequency for comfort and trust. And it reminds the body that it's safe to rest into the present moment and that it can support how we digest things. And that doesn't mean just food, but our experiences, our emotions, and it helps us to integrate life rather than brace against it. So bringing these two together wakens what the French so beautifully would say is joie de vivre. I'm not sure my French is all that good with my accent, but the joy of being alive. And with that today, I want to bring our affirmation forward. So as you're listening to the podcast and all of the beautiful spirituality ideas that Anne's going to be bringing forward, thinking about how you would like to be starting to advance that spiritual practice in the way that you live. So awaken your passion for joyous living with the abundance of spring energy. And with that, if you take a breath, smell what you've got. I know Anne has the water there, so it's connecting in with the water. Then take a sip and let yourself arrive fully right where you are at the moment. And I think it's funny, as I said those words, it's like that's exactly how I feel when I sip this tea, is like I'm right here. It's a real present, even though the tea was put together based on the historical pieces of what would have been in the fields. So, all right, and thank you for developing and bringing more abundance to this section of the podcast, because it's just so important for people to realize how much we can change, and we haven't started diving into our topic yet. So, all right, with that, let's go into, we want to talk about purpose as presence and not pressure. So we're looking at how purpose is often framed as something that we find, a destination, a role, a title, or a task that we might want to complete. But through the years of working in bioenergetic wellness, movement, and community healing, what I've witnessed again and again is that purpose isn't found, it's revealed when we're in alignment. And so it's not that we're doing the search, it's that everything just kind of comes to us like a magnet. When we're regulated, present, and connected to ourselves, purpose naturally expresses through how we live, move, listen, and how we respond. And purpose can stabilize us, not because we know the plan, but because we start to trust the process. So with that, I'm going to let you dive into what this means for you through remembrance and presence.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. Well, I totally agree with what you already said about purpose. For me, I don't see it as something that we need to achieve, or it's not a goal at the end of the road. Purpose is really, I would say, our agreement on why we came back to the earth, why we come back as a spiritual being in a human body, basically, is to continue that journey and to really remember why we came back, so as to say who you are, your soul essence. And that's really an exercise. And of course, life on Earth will throw challenges at us. And that's the whole exercise. I think it's how do we navigate these challenges, that the roadblocks that are placed on our road, so that eventually we can overcome it and we can really remember who we are, all the wisdom that's already living within us, and how can we now be that role model for helping others to also help them on their journey to basically awakening. And I feel that being alive on the planet in this day and age, 2026 especially, we just rapidly awakening humanity as a whole. Of course, there's still a lot of work to do, but if I look around me, the circles I'm connected with, the community, people I follow online as well, there's more and more people's awareness is living on being really living that purpose and remembering the soul without all the roadblocks or the obstructions. And this can be programs, when you come in a family, your family will already have limiting beliefs, maybe their traumas, our school teachers, our society, our governments. So they might really kind of block that remembrance and try to let you believe something different than that you really know deep within you. And so being present within, so presence is a big key, I feel, to remembering that purpose, like you also touched on it. So being present fully in your life, in your community, as well as in your body, like you mentioned, Michelle, through movement, through body work, but being aware and being present while you do that, and really living in the moment, to then allow that guidance to reemerge. I feel that is a beautiful way on how we can reconnect with our purpose whilst we're here in our dense 3D reality.
As you were talking, it was the intuition was just going community, community, community. So I'm just going to bring that forward because I think so often when we're thinking about being on a spiritual journey, it's about going within, finding who we are on the inside, and we might do a pilgrimage where we go off on our own so we can have our self-discovery. But it doesn't mean that we're there by ourselves. It means that we might change our community and the people who are going to surround us, and being connected to community. And as people are trying to navigate what's going on in the times of 2026, realizing where you have community and how that community supports that spiritual growth. And I just wanted to bring that forward. Do you want to comment any further on that? I know I'm throwing that one at you.
Oh yeah, I love it, because that's exactly the importance of self awakening, is exactly that connection with community as well. And I see it a lot around me, that people I work with, their social life is shifting. There might be marriage breakups, there might be friendships that kind of crumble away, that have been maybe stand up for 20 odd years. It's really who you connect with and who inspires you, and basically where you meet people at that same frequency, because ultimately it's all frequency. And we need that also in order to continue to grow, because we can do a lot by ourselves, but we need others as a reflection as well, because we'll always have our shadow still, which I also work with a lot with the Chiron wound readings. our shadow side that needs to be put light on, and very often we can't put that light on ourselves. I speak out of experience. I have a little confession to make, because before my husband walked in my life, it's now 10 years ago, for a very long time I lived as a single, traveling the world, and doing my courses and learning my lessons, but by myself. And I thought I was pretty awesome. Not perfect, but pretty awesome, until Andrew walked in my life, and he's been my biggest teacher, and I'm so grateful for him, through our love, but also throwing the spotlights on each other's shadow side. Relationships can be amazing tools to really enhance that spiritual awakening. And so partner to partner, but also your friends, your family, or holidays, if you're gonna do maybe a nice retreat, a yoga retreat, or whatsoever, a retreat in Cape Breton, Michelle, coming up. I wish I could be there, because those are moments you meet those like-minded people. And I've always find that so enriching, also how we connected. I also now started since December the Inner Light Portal, which is a monthly free healing webinar, but especially with that same feeling in the heart, the desire to create that community where people can come together and just for a moment forget about whatever is going on in the outside world and feel inspired, uplifted, and get that frequency up, because ultimately that's what's going to bring you that joie de vivre, like you said. And then automatically healing will follow, happiness will follow, abundance will follow. So yeah, absolutely. Community, I think, is very important.
And as people are feeling their emotions and maybe feeling alone in all of that, or the angst that's going on, to realize that as we connect into these different communities, that's where we find the inspiration to be able to pull ourselves out of that dark side. Since you brought it up, and your sessions, I mean, they're just so beautiful. Can you tell people how they can reach you in order to be able to come and join in on that special event?
The Inner Light Portal, I think the easiest is to sign up at my newsletter on the website. I'm sure you can put the link below. And then I will put it on social media also, always the date for the next one. So once a month, usually at the end of the month, we will hold that Inner Light Portal free healing webinar. And I started by focusing on healing, and that's why we're having the trilogy here as well. Healing on all layers of our being, because we cannot exclude one of each layer, meaning the physical, mental, emotional, and the spiritual layer. And when I thought, like, how will we best start the webinar, I thought, let's start with the most tangible, the one that we can all relate to, which is the physical. So that's how we started back in December. And so we're gonna really connect from within our body, and then also evolve into the different frequencies, energies, and dimensions, which we'll probably touch upon in a moment as well, that we can go beyond our 3D reality, for, yeah, really living in alignment with what also our Mother Earth, our home, is going through. The Earth herself is also shifting into the higher frequencies. So if we want to be in peace, in joy, not just for ourselves, but we want to do good for the world, right? So the best way is to have that start within you, and then let that percolate and extend outside of you in the different layers. And that's what we will discover every month in the Inner Light Portal.
Beautiful. Okay, so for people that this is resonating, please check out solistara.com, and I will have it in the description as well. But I just wanted to bring that forward because it does provide an experience of what we're talking about and also a community, and a community that's going to be able to shine a light in areas that you might not have seen before, but also in relationships with the other people that arrive. So beautiful. Okay, so let's move ourselves into, we were talking about awakening in everyday life, and I just wanted to bring forward what this means to us on the physical side. So we have a nervous system that no longer stays on high alert. And I think many of us have forgotten that, and that's the only way we function through the day. And it's like, it's not till you get to the weekend or a break where you actually go, okay, I'm going to let my nervous system relax. And it's about learning how to live with a relaxed nervous system and operating in a work day from that space. And when the past stops casting a shadow over your present, and I wanted to bring that forward for those people who continue to bring forward the stories of yesterday that they haven't been able to just let go of, to think about in what way with that shadow gone, or as somebody said, if you put a rope with suitcases of your past behind you, how many suitcases would you like to carry and pull yourself forward with? And can you let those suitcases go? And then intuition is going to become a quiet thing. It's going to be very clear. And a lot of times we're looking for intuition, or we're thinking we don't have it because it's just not quiet enough for that intuition to just be present and heard. And I know that you bring a lot of that forward with what you do in the way you bring the groups together, but also the one-on-one. And then we have our choices that are made by being rooted rather than reactive to things. So awakening doesn't remove challenges, but it changes how we're going to meet them and in what status we're going to be when we get there. So instead of asking what's wrong with me or what ache or pain do I have, we start looking at what is asking to be integrated. And this brings us to an interesting way of thinking about things. So, Anne, do you want to share a little bit about your experience about being integrated and what that pulls around for people?
Yeah, it's fast. Let's try to break it up a little bit. And I think I want to start by really stressing what you just said. It's what you focus on. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that every split second of the day, you have the chance, because you're a sovereign being, to shift your reality, to start anew. So don't be upset or angry with yourself, but realize that you create your own reality. So if you're looking at your life right now, how is my life? Is it joyful? Is it in flow? Or is it a right mess? There's only one person that really can make that change, and it's yourself. And I think that's something that I really want to stress on more and more, that people stop looking outside of themselves for solutions, but really go within. Because ultimately, we are so powerful. We're a fraction of all that is, all of creation. God, that's what who we are. You can call it whatever you want, but that's, we have that fraction of light in us. That's where we came from. It's hard to grasp, but what I always like to explain is like, let's start by birth, right? So we're born and we're still connected with our mother, with the umbilical cord. And then we go trace that umbilical cord back. So your mother was connected to your grandmother to your great grandmother, and. So if we trace this back billions of years ago to the very first part, so that also means that once upon a time, our cellular memory, our DNA, we were dinosaurs. We were beings that were living in the sea, because that's how creation started. And ultimately, we are part of the Big Bang. So, and if you look at how amazing life is and how nature always bounces back, this is you. We are no different. And yeah, so that's how I want to start. And maybe to support this, Michelle, do you mind if I read a little article I just saw the other day in the airplane? I was reading it about the discovery of the electrifying sixth sense of the shark. Because we're no different. We also have that, like you mentioned, that intuition, that sixth sense, that frequency field. It's just that we, with our naked eye, don't see it. And then, of course, if you're trained enough and if you're awakened enough, you're gonna feel your electrical field yourself. But let me read this quickly. It might bring awareness to how powerful you are as well. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, please.
So where shall we start? So what would it be like to experience the world as a shark? Let me start here. For them, there's a whole different dimension hidden from us, so we can't see it also when we look at a shark. In addition to seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, and tasting, sharks possess a sixth sense, the ampullae of Lorenzini. So this is all scientifically backed up as well. And these are tiny pores around the snout of the shark that allow to detect electric fields. Without electricity, there's no life. And that is a fact that is scientifically backed. And that's what we wanted to talk about a little later about the quantum field, because that's where we all are connected to as well. So once again, without electricity, there is no life. Every cell in every living organism carries an electrical charge. So that's not just with the shark, that's also for us human beings. Every heartbeat is sparked by an electrical signal. That's what we talked about, Michelle, the other night when we were doing the heart coherence session in Inner Light Portal. In fact, our heart has the largest electromagnetic field of our whole body. So it's all just exactly the same. So every heartbeat is sparked by an electrical signal. Every muscle movement begins with one electrical signal. Sharks have the incredible ability to detect even the faintest of these currents. A fish lying motionless beneath the sand may believe it's invisible and safe, but to a shark, it glimmers like a star in the night. That's that electric pulse that the shark will see like a bright star, even though the fish thinks it's safe underneath the sand. And that's where the magic lies. Sharks remind us that entire worlds exist, forever hidden from our limited senses. While we cling to what we can see, smell, and hear, sharks spend their lives gliding through a universe of electric waves. And for the writer, he says, for me, it's a lesson in humility. We humans like to think our perception of the world is complete, but that's an illusion. No matter how clever or technologically advanced we become, vast parts of reality will always escape us, yet vividly experienced by the awareness of being aware.
Wow. And where is your resource from that?
That was a magazine, a travel magazine in the KLM airplane. So this is a travel writer, a biologist who was so excited what he had just discovered here.
Wow. And I'm thinking about, when we take our pleasure crafts, large and small, into the water and what disruption we bring to that world that we don't know anything about. We just think it's water. And we've already, with how we started today, how much you infused your water, it's much more. It's just so
Oh
much more.
yes, it's a living light code. It's our memory. Everything is but water is in everything and in every living essence. And now also recently a lot of astrologers I followed were also saying that since last December, just recent December, there was a big shift in the universe, and they were talking about this three-eye atlas, which is a new kind of not a it's not a meteorite, but it's like a planetoid that comes from very, very ancient origin, so further than the black holes even. But they now discover that with it, it brings ancient wisdom, which is coming closer, and it's all love frequency. And basically, what's happening now, and that's why this year is so vital, it became so it was very close to the sun at one point and then the earth, but the fragments, the dust that it leaves beyond, are these high frequency light codes of memory that, of course, with the solar flares and with the rainfall and our waters, are now also charged with this higher frequency. So as we're gonna get the damp and the rain, so as we get rained upon and as we will drink our water, remember, we are now being in a time that we get this infusion of these ancient memories that humanity never was able to experience. So it's fascinating times.
Wow. Thank you for explaining it that way. I was thinking I listened to several people about this experience, but never in the way that I could embody it. So that's such a beautiful explanation. It just changes your reason for going outside and being in nature
Exactly.
and standing in the rain and letting the snow fall on you and capturing that ancient wisdom. Wow.
Really changed. For the first time, I walked out in the rain without an umbrella. I mean, who would have thought? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
It's just the awareness again. It's amazing.
yeah, yeah, and I got stuck on the driveway in the snow and ice, and we were out there for quite a while trying to get the car out. And in that process, the snow that was coming down turned to rain, and so it was a rain snow, is what they call it here. And but you could taste the salt, you could taste the
Yes,
sea, and
beautiful.
I thought, how beautiful! I'm stuck out here and I can't go anywhere until we get this car out. And it was so beautiful. Instead of, oh, we have snow rain, I better go inside, which is what I would have done. Yeah.
E- Exactly that. And that's such a beautiful example of how you create your reality, Michelle. You just see the awareness of the possibility of growth in that moment, where instead of being grumpy and closing all down, lowering your frequency and just being all miserable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So we're coming in and I'm soaking wet and you shrug that off and yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But instead of, yeah, I came in and I was like, wow, that was really cool. And I'm soaking wet and my hair is all wet and that felt so great.
And
Yeah.
exactly, and I bet it felt amazing. That's just that is exactly that presence, that memory within you, that the interconnectedness, and how now your DNA has been shifted and upgraded even a little bit more again. So, and that's the beauty of being aware that our cells, our DNA, they're constantly possible to upgrade, to shift, to change. We can also elongate our telomeres, which ultimately can affect your self-healing capacity. And it's just all by awareness. That's where energy healing comes in, and meditation and all these practices that you can just create your own healthy happiness and abundance even.
I think you segued beautifully into one of the things that I discovered on a course that you and I are attending on spirituality and healing. And my discovery yesterday, or my remembrance of Anne Gertie's work, who brought Tai Chi to the UK in the 1940s, and the opportunity in there of looking at Tai Chi, because right now we have, Tai Chi walking, Tai Chi to get fit so you can have those beautiful abs. That's a fitness focus. And Tai Chi is a spiritual practice, but not in a religious way. It's a practice of getting back to yourself and that awareness while in a group of people and raising that frequency. But in the writing, she had a little bit about how, and it's a bit of balance between yin and yang, you have that physical aspect, but you also have to balance it with the spiritual aspect, which a lot of people don't do when they're exercising. They're about that idea of the muscles and breathing deeper and get the circulation going, but that spiritual aspect, and you can't do one without the other. And what she says in her book is because then you're cheating. And that's a really interesting way to look at it when you think about how do I do my workouts? How do I go for my walk? And when I'm running in nature, am I in nature or am I passing through nature? And it's such an important part of that awareness and being in coherence with everything.
Yeah, and ultimately it will reflect in the result. If you just focus on, let's say, creating that six pack, you'll probably get it. But then if you stop exercising, the flap will come back much faster than you would have wished for. Whereas if you're aware of the connectedness and you integrate the chi, the energy, the nature's elements, it's a shift within you, and ultimately it's your life, it's how you embody your life and how you walk the planet, and then weight will stay away, our health will come back, and energy will stay. It's not something you need to aim for on a daily matter. It will just be an automatic result of that spiritual aspect, that connectedness, and that's the big difference, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And that it instead of having to go exercise, you want to go because you're like,
Yeah,
oh, here it comes. This is my time. And
yeah.
then I get to evolve. I would say evolve because there's always a transformation while you're doing movement.
Yeah.
Um, so this is going to segue us into where we wanted to go next, which is looking at being in the zone, which is what that feels like when you get to do those activities. So I just want to bring forward for people that when we're in a flow, it's an effortless endeavor, which as we say in Tai Chi, ultimately we want to have no effort. For many people, it's trying to get them from 150% effort, which, they drive their day with, down to calming that nervous system to get it down to a 40% effort where you really start to move the energy. And then eventually you get to that no effort piece where it just becomes timeless. And there's an ease of movement and thought. And usually there's no thoughts, actually, they're all cleared out. And then it becomes clarity. And that's where overthinking everything can disappear because intuition has a chance to come forward and send messages. And there's a richness rather than a rush. So, from the nervous system perspective, it's a great way to bring in regulation for that. But the energetic perspective, which people aren't thinking about, is the resonance that's going to happen. And from the spiritual aspect, it's the alignment that you come in. So, there's no longer this pull, that baggage, those suitcases behind, the backward looking can disappear. And yes, we're moving forward into the future. We set our goals and in our intentions, but it's not demanding us to be there because we're in this present piece. We know what the future has, and we can just come into alignment and flow with it. So presence becomes enough is the piece of that. And we wanted to dive in a little bit more about what that means in our lives. So, Anne, do you want to share how that sets up your day and how that sets up some of the activities you do and even how you got to your group, actually, because I think that brings in a lovely way for people to understand the power of what you're choosing.
Yeah, I think exactly that. It's been a follow-up of that remembrance, because obviously the work I do is constantly evolving, but my philosophy has always been walk your talk. So I always started at where the level that I was, and I started back in 2013, with the Universal Healing Tao System studies and Chinit Sang, so the deep abdominal detox massage was my first almost awakening moment. That's something where I felt like this is me, this is what I need to bring into the world. And it started from there. So that was part of the remembrance. But now remembrance is becoming more and more and stronger, because I know that like you, are very old souls, and many of the listeners will be. So you start to remember parts of things of past lives and you bring them together. But then it's like you say, it's that presence that first need to be triggered within yourself. So I had to really learn now to being present truly within myself, within the body, and within the moment. And trust was a big challenge. And I think for many of us, I mean, we live in that 3D dense reality where a lot of it is fear-based, what the media throws at us, what we hear, what our society makes us feel. It's all fear-based. So to really finally get all those layers off, and that's what I now help people with as well. So it's a lot of emotion clearing, trauma clearing, past life clearing. So you come to that essence where you now fully live your truth. And that's just very simple in the heart space. But I say it's simple, but it takes time. And so, yeah, and one person isn't the other. So it took me from 2013 till I can say almost 2025, where I really landed in the memory of who I'm here and what I'm here to do in terms of my work with energy healing, but also in cooperation with the earth. I feel I have a big task to do also as a water priestess. So a lot of colleagues are connected to Mother Earth. I know you are as well, Michelle, with all your beautiful teas and the herbs. For me, it's very much water grid holder. So I'm holding a lot of water grids in the earth, I now realize. And that's why for 20 years I worked on ships, and it never dawned to me, why on earth did I work on a ship? And in the past, when I started my professional career, you must know I changed job almost yearly, because it was not really in resonance until I started working on the water. I never changed again. So that now I realized this is because I have now aware of that. Each time I get on a ship, I work with the water grid and bring healing, because there's so much trauma. If I experience, for instance, cruising in Germany on the Rhine River, you have that stretch with all these castles. People now come because it's so beautiful and romantic, but there's so much hardship and bloodshed being passed there. I feel it. And that's where I can bring my part of healing as well. So that's one part. But then last year, when I really start to embody all this, my guide said, now it's time to bring a community together, to bring out all the old wisdom, bring it out, because it's hard. When I work with clients one-on-one, we're so focused, we're in the session, we work on the client's needs, and before you know it, 90 minutes are gone, and we have to respect each other's time. So I cannot share as much as I wanted to. And that's where we now come together monthly with the webinar, which is a free service where I just want to give and share, and with wonderful special guests like you were on this January episode. Thank you very much for that. And that's how we can also contribute a little bit on helping the world on a larger scale, which that's ultimately what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for bringing all those pieces in, because we are spending a lot of time, people trying to find themselves, trying to find their soul's calling, and being present with themselves. And that is part of it. And in Tai Chi, we say that too, right? Everybody comes in for Tai Chi because they want to improve their health. They don't realize what they're coming into is the community. And it's the community that's going to hold them up. And their their aspect or responsibility to the community is just as important as everybody else's. And as you're talking about um, resonating with your job, that's incredible to know that you were there. You just weren't listening in the right way yet to be able to find that discovery.
Yeah.
And
And
go ahead.
more so what it was is I had for years, I had debilitating migraines. And once I made the awareness and the shift that I had to change my profession, I'm migraine free. I mean, and that's the physical part that comes with it. And you're looking and you're searching. And I went to the best doctors and no one could find the trigger. I found it myself. Hallelujah. But yeah, it's just that part as well. It's just so that's all these elements of us, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, they all have to be integrated and put your attention to it, because otherwise it doesn't fall into place.
Hmm. And I really appreciate you also saying that awareness about where you are in the world and what has gone on before, and bringing the light to that space. Because my first trip to Scotland was like that, and we were touring, we were performing, and I could not get out of the caravan. And my dad had, that my parents were traveling with us, and my dad came in and, strong garden, get out here and you need to, lead your group. And I was like, I was debilitated. I could not function.
Wow.
But that was the energy of that space. And at that time, I wasn't aware of energy and what I would need to do or how I would do anything. So I hadn't got to that space yet either. But it is very clear to me how I felt and how dysfunctional. And then how my last trip to Scotland was so completely different. But I wasn't looking for the romantic castle. I was looking for the experience of people and the community that live there now. And it was a completely different experience on the same land. So it makes such a difference. And kudos to you for being on a ship and being able to work energetically for the lands that you pass by. And for those people who are lucky enough to be on the ship when you're in there, and the programs that you run, to be able to be a part of that on such a
Yes,
deeper
thank
level.
you. Yeah, and I feel it's just the beginning. So what I'm gonna do now, in 2 weeks, I'll go back on board for a month's wellness cruises, for the third year in a row with the same company. But I got a Lemurian crystals. I have a whole box I'm gonna take with me, and I'm gonna charge them and drop them in the river as part of a healing frequency as I go along. So
Wow.
I just got that download, so that's something I wanna bring as well.
Beautiful. Okay, that's for future conversations.
Yeah.
We know where we're heading with some more
Yeah.
podcasts. So let's come back to integration. So healing as an opportunity to remember. And for this stage of the journey, healing stops being something that we do, and it just becomes who we are. So for those people that are trying to fix things that are still health wise, as you said, those migraines just disappeared. This is the place where we're remembering who we are, and it takes away all that angst. So it gives us an opportunity to regulate. So we've talked about the nervous system already. The heart has an opportunity to move over to trust. And sometimes when we have those aches and complaints, we've forgotten to trust,
Yeah.
and we can't be even open to it. So, and the last one is the spirit remembers how to lead. And we also don't know the experience of that or how we would bring that in. So alignment doesn't mean perfection, but it sure means the authentic presence that we can have. And so with that, do you want to share a tool or a practice that people could repeat to bring them into that presence?
Sure. I think it's important that we start by sharing maybe a simple way of how to experience your own energy. We call it the qi in traditional Chinese medicine, or prana, because ultimately, like the shark, we are just electromagnetic waves, we are frequency. And so it's very important that we keep that frequency high on one point. And then secondly, we connect that to the heart, because that's where basically that's the seed of our soul. That's where we can be guided from. So important also to get out of the mind and into the heart. That's I would say the first practice that we really want to focus on, because the difference of that is that we leave that dense 3D reality a little bit behind us, and we start to become aware of the bigger picture, which we call the quantum field. The quantum field is not something as abstract or from science fiction movies. It's basically scientifically also stated that is what we call what goes beneath reality, beneath solid reality, and it becomes a fluid reality. And that's our energy as well, and our frequency. And that's that field that also the shark experience. I'm sure you all have had it, that you might be thinking of someone or your mother, and 2 minutes later the phone rings and it's your mother. It's these synchronicities. Once we start to put the awareness to that, or the double digits on the clock, for instance, the 11 11 13 13, these are just little signs from our guides or angels. That could be a whole other episode. But know that there's much more than that we can perceive with the senses. And so a little exercise we can do is just discovering our own chi by just putting your hands together and just wrap them really fast. And then what also helps is put the fingertips and just tap the fingertips gently to one another. So you're basically now focusing and activating that electromagnetic field. And you can hold it in front of your chest, and then gently open your hands as if you're holding an imaginary ball. And feel already the hands, are they becoming a little bit warm inside? And maybe some tingling. And open the hands a little bit as you're expanding that ball, that chi. And bring it back together. You might feel the pull, the energy between the hands. So we can play a little bit with that. And the more you do this, the more your hands will start warming up. And don't forget, your hands are your healing tools. So even if you have a headache, warm up your hands and put them on your head. It will softly, gently disappear the headache. Now bring the hands to the heart. And just give the heart a little smile. We want to make friends with our inner body, our inner frequencies. It's all just frequency, energy. So we want to just have that peaceful and friendly. And then as we know now that the heart has got the biggest field of electromagnetic field, bring those warm hands a little bit away from your body. And if you do that with gentle awareness and bring them back to your body, you feel that tingling in the hands. That's your energy. And we bring that outside of us, expand that. And so now you might even start to feel your skin, your flesh, not so tight anymore. It's kind of dissolving slightly. You're just becoming that field of awareness, of energy. And just relax. And if you start to do this little bit by little bit daily, has to be not long, a few minutes, you can then start to expand your energy outside the room you are in, outside the house. And you're gonna notice, if you do this on a regular basis, your house, your family will start to shift as well, because they're gonna feel that love, that magnetic field from the heart in their field, and they're gonna really bring that love frequency in your home. You can bring it out in the street. And that's how I like to also get together in community, because if we focus on this on a global scale, we can bring it out on the planet Earth and even beyond into that quantum space. And that's how shift can happen.
Wow. I'm thinking about in class when we stop at the end of the set and we just hold the space to do a standing meditation. And usually everybody's thinking about, can they hold their arms there? Are they still breathing? Coming back into this physical body space, rather than thinking about, as I stand here, in what way am I connected to everyone else? And that innate thing of us wanting to come back in instead of expanding out, and
Out. Yeah.
creating that collective that reaches into the quantum field.
Yes. And that's so important, because ultimately spending out is your light, and light always overshines darkness. So it's a great way of protecting yourself. I mean, there's a lot of people nowadays very high sensitive, and what you have all these titles, CVS, chronic fatigue, and then what have you. But that's because you hold your power within too much. If you start to expand it, the factors that will trigger you and that will bring your frequency down will become less and less, because your light is becoming stronger, your frequency is higher, and that's how you can ultimately tip that cycle and get more energy and feel the happiness. And yes, the world is a crazy place, and it's terrible of what's happening in the world, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't affect me, because if you know how you can perceive it and you know you can create your own reality, you become much different, and it's through your own strength then that you can make a contribution to then ultimately to make a shift in the world. But by going into the worry and the sorrow and the pain, you can't do anything. So that's the big yeah practice we need to realize.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting way to look at it too, because it doesn't mean we don't empathize or sympathize with the families who are in the middle of that angst, but by holding that space at a higher frequency, we provide them with more support
Yeah.
than if, and that's that empathic piece. If we go in there and we just want to eat it up to take it away from them so they don't have so much. Instead, it's that compassionate piece. You put it in action, is I'm going to hold that space. I'm going to broaden it for you. I'm going to help find a way for you to see some light at
Yeah.
the end of your tunnel, and being able to really support and lift people in a much stronger way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we
Great.
have we've been all over the place with
Yeah.
ideas today and some beautiful segues, which will take us into season 6. And so I appreciate the way that you brought the conversation together today, and how we brought in more about nature and the world and that whole galactic opportunity of how the universe is conversing with us, and are we listening, and can we be awake and alive for it, and where will that take us? And thank you so
Exactly.
much for that.
Thank you, Michelle, for another inspiring conversation.
So we're going to bring this trilogy to a close, but it
Mm.
doesn't mean that's the end of our conversations. And Anne and I are really excited, because the conversations with Anne Marie Boudreau about sound and frequency and finding the inner voice, what we're going to do now is bring that whole conversation together. And this is going to take us into season 6 as a new way of looking at and experiencing the world, and through the eyes of these two amazing people. And so I'm really looking forward to how that conversation is going to come together. And we hope that you'll stay tuned, but also that you will like, share, comment, and pass it forward so other people can find us and start to get into this conversation. If you feel that joining Anne on her special monthly sessions is something you resonate with, please go to solastara.com and register for that piece. Anne suggested about the retreat that I will be holding, which will be multidimensional, and a neuro arts celebration here on Cape Breton Island in August. And we have facilitators coming in from all over the place to support the journey, but also we'll be sharing as they say here, the veil is very thin in Cape Breton, especially where I live. There's a belt along here with the ley lines. And so I'm really excited to share all that is the energy and the essence of Cape Breton with people. And so if that's something you resonate with, you can find that in the shop at greenwellcenter.com under events. And I just really look forward to where we can take these conversations. So thank you, Anne, so much for all that you've brought.
Thank you, Michelle, and all the listeners. Much love.
As you walk this journey with us through healing, energy, purpose, and alignment, I want you to just remember today's affirmation. Awaken your passion for joyous living with the abundance of spring energy. And spring can be the season, but can also be coming out of the bubbling springs in the bottom of your foot, how you're connected to the earth, and how you find that vivacious way of living and being for other people, and how you can connect in community. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about living as who you already are, present with all that you've been. And so until next time, be well, be present, and be curious. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next conversation. Thanks, everyone.